脑洞永远不够多，只怕真相太寂寞。大家好，我是大金，欢迎回到我的频道。在这里呢，我们会一起来看一些那些在网络上面流传的一些奇异的、挑战我们认知的一些影片哦。那我们话不多说，赶快开始吧 ，Let's go!
Alright.Somebody built a website that allows AI agents to rent humans for physical tasks. It's about as Black Mirror as anything I've seen. The site is called rentahuman.ai. And the crazy part is, humans are actually signing up for this. The site was originally created by a developer named Alex, and his idea was actually pretty simple. AI agents are getting extremely capable, but what happens if to finish a task, they need to do something in the physical world? Pick up a package for someone, attend a meeting in person, physically check a store if they have a specific item. AIs don't have arms or legs, and robots don't exist yet, so they need humans in the real world to complete the last mile of physical work. It's all a bit dystopian until you see that over 700,000 people have signed up, filled out their profile with skills, and some are already getting paid doing work. If you think about it, this is kind of no different than DoorDash or Postmates, except that instead of humans ordering, it's the AIs requesting to do stuff. I don't know where I sit on all this, but one thing is for sure, the world is definitely getting weirder.
Wow, rent a human. 所以说哇，因为像现在我不知道其他 AI， 但是 Cloud 基本上可以跑整个公司。AI 虽然可以做很多网络上面可以做的事情，但是可能有一些东西是需要人帮你去跑腿的。那这个时候 AI 就可以到这里去 rent a human， 租一个人类来帮你跑腿。
Like I said, I've got bills to pay.
Make money, motherfuckers.
真有意思。All right.
There's a fisherman near Sitka, and he's checking his crab pots. He's going along the shoreline. The fog rolls in. He hears what sounded like a child crying from the tree line. He ignored it at first, but it gets louder. And then instead of just a baby crying, he begins to hear a kid's voice. He starts to distinguish language in the sound. He's like, it's a kid calling for help. So he walks a little closer on the shore to the wood line. The crying stops as he approaches the trees. And instead of the kid's voice calling for help, the voice changes a little, and he heard his brother's voice asking him to come in deeper.
Oh my goodness.
It all kind of clicks to him before he steps in the woods. He's like, I remember the stories of my ancestors. Instead of going toward the voice, turned around, got back in his boat. As soon as he pushed off, he saw movement on the shoreline, low, dark shapes moving away that weren't quite human or quite animal. There wasn't a clear face, wasn't a clear form. It was just something watching. But as soon as he pushed off from the shore, the voices stopped.
That's terrifying.
那不就是我们所说的魔神啊吗？魔神仔吗？真恐怖。All right.
France just made massive moves on UAPs.
French Member of Parliament Arnaud Saint-Martin is organising the first parliamentary colloquium on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, at the French National Assembly, June 29th, 2026. Now, Arnaud Saint-Martin isn't just any politician, he sits on the National Defence Commission and specialises in space and defence issues. He's officially reopening the UAP files in France. Now, this comes right after the Pentagon released hundreds of declassified UAP documents, including the Eye of Sauron, flying saucers and orange orbs. The French MP shared this to show even the Americans are moving. Now France is stepping up. Now this is the first time a high-level colloquium like this is being held inside a national assembly. It's no more jokes, no more it's nothing. France is moving from Gaipan reports to real parliamentary debate.
Well, now we have France joining the mix. We had Japan coming forward saying they are researching the topic with great interest. We had Ukraine releasing their own footage and they set up their own task force to study the UAP phenomena. Europe is waking up. USA is also pushing heavily on disclosure itself. It seems like, mate, the momentum is there. It's plain as day, people, right? Who else is going to join the mix next? So wait for June 29th. It's going to be quite interesting. And welcome in, France. Hopefully you have some goods to share and some undeniable evidence too, mate. So I'm excited.
All right.
The Boogosphere, it is an extraterrestrial object. We've done the analysis on it. It is electrogravitic anti-gravity. It is not a hoax. There are now 10 different videos from 10 different spheres flying in this region in South America. It has interesting inscriptions which have been analyzed to be a type of Proto-Sanskrit, a very unusual type of circuit pattern on the top of it. And if you look at these holes around the equator, the center, it's one seamless sphere, But inside these holes is a type of resin that has fiber optics microscopically in them. And we took some of this resin and tested it. You'll see that the resin done at the University of Georgia, the top carbon-14 dating facility, is 12,560 years old. So this sphere is 12,560 years old. It's the end of the last ice age when a comet or an asteroid hit. It's the flood stories of ancient times. So either a very advanced extraterrestrial civilization assisted at that time or was already here, or people working with those civilizations made this. You can see the list of elements in there. Interestingly, are a number of elements that were not even discovered until the late 1800s or early 20th century that have a high electromagnetic conducting purpose today, but in unusual quantities. The actual alloy itself, that is the skin of this 1-foot diameter sphere, is in fact no known alloy that currently exists in any aerospace or industrial application. It matches none of them.
12000年老的金属球哦，那些金属球他们拿到的时候感觉好像都还蛮新的，没想到这么老。Alright.
Science is revealing a hidden network within your body that may be connected to the ancient Chinese concept of qi or energy flow, but scientists almost missed out on this discovery because they thought this network was a flaw of processing tissue. It's called the interstitium, which is a fluid-filled network of spaces that supports body-wide communication as well as playing a key role in the maintenance of health and the progression of disease. Like and follow for more content like this. And it's a massive network. It makes up 25% of all the fluids inside of your body. For context, that's 4 times the total volume of your entire blood supply. And think of the interstitium as a hidden highway for body-wide communication. It contains collagen components which are piezoelectric, which means that it can convert mechanical force into electrical signals, facilitating communication across tissues. And that kind of sounds like the 4,000-year-old concept of meridians in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, where acupuncturists place needles along certain points on the body to enhance energy flow to support health. And this is supported by research done where scientists injected a dye on participants' forearm and saw that the dye traveled up the forearm corresponding to the theorized acupuncture meridian, where scientists emphasized that the dye didn't go through the veins or superficially through the skin, it went through the interstitium. And when scientists used acupuncture to treat rabbits with colitis, they found that some of the benefits might have come from the treatment, which activated communication cells inside of the interstitium. Although this discovery doesn't prove the concept of qi or meridians definitively, it does show that these ancient practices were onto something, and they were describing the human body in a way that they observed in nature, which is a beautiful metaphor just like the interstitium, that maybe the secrets to life, society, and the universe are hidden in the gray zone areas that we've been ignoring.
哇哦，所以说啊，他们终于开始去研究有关于经脉脉络的东西，因为他们发现了这一个，就是除了我们血管啊、我们血液啊，或是我们脏器之间的这些液体之间，其实是有沟通的方式。一直以来，我们没有办法用科学的方式去做解释，所以现在呢，科学慢慢的要追上来，然后运用我们的 AI 去做一个融合，马上就可以解开人体的奥秘。Alright.
How and why is this a thing? The CIA released a brain code that cures pain. All you have to do is repeat the number in your mind, 55515, and it will work. And since this document has been released, so many people have come forward and say that this actually does work. Now, obviously, like, it doesn't cure, like, extreme pain. But, like, for example, my cat scratched me earlier today, and I was thinking it in my brain, and it worked. They also released to remember, if you're trying to, like, remember a part of your life experience, you can close your eyes and touch softly with the fingers of your right hand to the center of your forehead. And when you do this, you will recall and remember immediately what you were trying to remember. remember. They also have a code for reducing emotional charge. Close your eyes, inhale deeply, hold your breath for a moment, and then think of the calming, cleansing color green. When you do this, exhale slowly, and the green energy will push all the excess harmful emotional charges down through your physical system and out through the soles of your feet. This daily tools document is really interesting. I really recommend taking a look at it. It's one of the more interesting documents that I feel like everybody can appreciate. It's not just like boring government stuff. Come over here for longer freaky videos.
Oh yeah， 这个最近又火起来。其实这个已经是解密好一阵子的这个文件，也就是 CIA 解密的 Gateway Project 匝道计划。那这个计划最主要就是一个深入的研究人类的，比如说意识啊、深层冥想啊，一直到遥视啊这些研究的报告哦。所以说呢，这个研究报告里面有很多东西，而且都还蛮有意思的。所以说大家有兴趣的话可以看一看哦。那其中呢，它这个 Daily Tools， 因为它这个名称很好玩的，就是每日小工具，意思是就是可以帮助我们就是顺利的度过每一天的这个小工具吗？那我把这个 Daily Tool 日常实用工具集生活小工具哦，这个东西稍微翻译了一下，所以我们可以一起来看一看呢。其实这些东西跟冥想有蛮大的关系，但是这其中呢还加了一些非常实际的操作，比如说他说的快速入眠法，舒适躺下，深呼吸5次，然后在心中数1到20，然后呢超强记忆提取法，闭上眼睛，用你的右手手指轻轻触你的额头正中央，也就是你的眉心，也就是第3眼的位置。我常常会看到有些人在试图回想事情的时候都会做这个动作，就是自然而然就做这样子的动作，很好玩。所以说这个动作其实是有它的用途的。然后呢就是痛觉讯号阻断法，闭上眼睛，注视你身体中产生疼痛讯号的那个部位，在注视的同时，在脑海中反复默念数字55515，然后呢，疼痛讯息就会慢慢减弱，直到它们变得不再重要。我在这边有去研究一下，就是为什么是55515，不是比如说我就随便给你个数字，分散注意力，等于是分心用。但是呢，我后来去挖掘一下，发现其实55515是有它特别的意义的。所以说，在这个门罗研究所，就是专门去研究我们的意识啊、冥想或者遥视啊，他们是研究出来了一套所谓的生命的数字。所以说呢，每一个数字呢，都代表了这个物质生命里的一个区块哦。所以说呢，这是他们研究出来，所以呢，55515是特别的一个数字的循环。然后呢，如果是在默念或者是冥想的时候，在想这个数字的时候呢，就可以把疼痛的感觉去做一个转移。但重点是有没有效，其实就是不得而知。不过呢，听说有些人呢发现对他们非常的有效，现在呢在 TikTok 或是 Reddit 上面火了起来哦，所以说可以试试看。然后呢，除了这一个止痛的代号之外呢，还有情绪排毒降温法 Reduce Emotional Charge， 闭上眼睛，深呼一口气，憋气片刻，然后想象具有净化与平静作用的绿色，试着去冥想绿色，然后慢慢吐气的时候呢，想象这一股绿色的能量呢，将所有过剩有害的负情绪往下推到你的脚底板之外，然后排出体外。然后还有身体爆发力与速度充能 to charge the body for great speed and strength。 所以说呢，身体爆发力的话，就是闭上眼睛，深吸一口气，想象你即将要执行的物理动作，并想象充满强大能量的红色。当你吐气的瞬间，睁开眼睛，立即去执行你想要完成的动作哦。然后还有全系统能量补充法 to receive fresh new energy for your total system， 吸收新能量的方法。闭上眼睛，双手向外伸展，
掌心向上，接着深吸一口气并憋气，想象来自上方耀眼纯净的白色能量正聚焦并向下凝聚在你的掌心中，随后这股能量流经你的双背，扩散到你整个人全人系统 total self， 扩散到你整个人，最后吐气，这样子的话可以补充全身能量，提升整体活力与生命状态。
Very cool, very cool. Alright，
We've got some crazy things happening in the world right now. A dog was spotted riding a jet ski pulled by a man on a hoverboard in Fort Lauderdale. This would only happen in Florida for sure. Tesla is recalling some of their Cybertrucks because wheels are falling off them. Anonymous campaign staffers have come out and said that they have made thousands of dollars betting on their own candidates. One said, quote, "You have all this information and knowledge that is not publicly available yet. It's almost foolish not to bet on it before it's made public." Oh my gosh. There's a trend happening right now where hundreds of people are descending on Scientology buildings as part of a speedrunning trend. Someone found a weird rule inside of OpenAI's codex system that says specifically to never talk about goblins. A Taco Bell worker has been accused of shooting customers over putting soda inside of a water cup. There are children drawing mustaches on their face in order to bypass online age check.
All right.
What you're looking at is the oldest known queer couple in recorded history, who also happens to be two of the most powerful men in ancient Egypt. And what they found inside their tomb still hasn't been fully explained. In 1964, archaeologist Ahmed Musa was excavating at Saqqara when he uncovered a tomb that just didn't add up. It didn't belong to a husband and wife. It belonged to two men, Ni-Ankhnum and Khnumhotep. These were not minor court officials. Their title was overseers of the manicurists of the Great House, which does mean, amongst other jobs, that they were in charge of keeping the pharaoh's nails clean, which doesn't sound like much until you realize how important this role was. To touch the pharaoh's body in ancient Egypt required absolute trust because the pharaoh was considered a living god. These two men were among the pharaoh's most intimate confidants at the height of Egyptian power. And the tomb they shared is unlike anything else in the archaeological record. For starters, the walls depict Ni-Ankhnum and Khnumhotep embracing face to face, a pose in Egyptian art almost exclusively reserved for married couples. They're also shown holding hands depicted at equal size throughout, which in Egyptian iconography signals equal status. But by far, the most striking image shows the two men with their noses touching. In Egyptian culture, sharing breath like this is called sniffing. And in the context of tomb art, it's an act of profound romantic intimacy, the kind almost exclusively depicted between husbands and wives. Then there's their names. Ni-Ankhnum means life belongs to Num. Khnumhotep means Khnum is satisfied. Both honor the same creator god. And when read together, they form a complete theological sentence. Two names written as a single unit. But there's more. In one of the tomb's key banquet afterlife scenes, Ni-Ankhnum's wife is almost completely erased. Archaeologists have concluded that this is not from weathering and it's not by accident. This appears to be a deliberate erasure. Egyptologist Greg Reeder argues that someone made a conscious decision to remove her to ensure that these two men remain partners not just in life but for eternity. But there's another theory. Some Egyptologists argue that they were twins, maybe even conjoined twins, and that all this imagery simply represents biological unity rather than a romantic one. The only problem with that theory is that this is the only tomb in the entire necropolis out of thousands where two men are depicted that way. The artistic choices also violate strict canonical rules of the 5th dynasty that the twin theory just can't account for. And it still doesn't explain why someone erased the wife. But there are obvious limits to what we can and can't know. As far as we know, ancient Egypt had no concept of sexual identity like we do today. We're looking at this ancient evidence through a very modern lens. But here's what we know for certain. Someone 4,400 years ago made deliberate choices to ensure that these two men would be shown together intimately, breaking every artistic convention of their era forever. And this matters because Egyptian tomb art wasn't just decoration. It was believed to literally manifest in the afterlife. Whatever you put on these walls was what you were meant to experience for eternity. Someone fought to make sure they would be together forever.
Wow, so cool! 历史上最早记载的同性恋呢，嘿嘿嘿 ，so cool. All right.
OpenAI just solved one of the most famous unsolved math problems in the world. And it sounds super nerdy, but this moment will go down as one of the most important breakthroughs in the future of humanity. The interesting part about this story is not actually the problem itself. It's the way the AI came up with the solution. Until this point, AI math models were really good at one thing: brute force. For problems that have millions of potential answers, AI is really good at rapidly testing them all, eventually finding the needle in a haystack that humans would just never look through. But the issue is, not all problems require brute force. Sometimes the hardest problems require out-of-the-box creativity, something that AI models just could never do. That is, until now. See, in this case, the solution the AI model designed for this problem was something that researchers had never seen before. Essentially, the model was able to think so far outside the box, it designed an answer and chain of reasoning that humans would have never thought to try. So this is a massive breakthrough because for the first time ever, AIs have shown the ability for raw creativity. And that means they could invent new solutions for all kinds of math and science. Cures for cancer, new materials, brand new physics, everything's on the table. It feels small now, but this moment in May 2026 will forever be marked in history as the day AI models got creative.
Yeah， 一直以来我们就觉得说 AI 应该是不会有创造力，因为他们最多就是拿他已经知道的、已经学会的我们的知识，然后做一个诠释。所以说，才短短的几年，我们从不可能到现在有此可能性，哇！这样子的话，那会不会真的有一天，像我们玩的游戏《底特律变人》里面的仿生机器人，也开始有自己的知觉？有自己的认知。All right.
What we discovered is the probability that any sensory system has ever been shaped to see any true feature of objective reality. When you do the math, the answer is 0. Exactly 0.
Well, you realize you're making a very bold claim. Embodied consciousness, consciousness existing inside bodies, is the exception to the rule. Detachment from the five senses actually allows you greater knowledge. A good example being near-death experiences. The amount of things that we don't see in reality, we don't see electric fields. The 8 million species are just the 8 million species that it's adaptive for our survival to see. How do we then try to triangulate and figure out what true reality actually is?
To date, science cannot answer that question. There are an infinite number of alien intelligences. Our headset gives us a very, very, very tiny peek at this, and the recursive trace logic gives us a mathematical framework to begin to understand exactly how our space-time headset is built, how it can be hacked.
Whoa. So it's an infinite scale of consciousness.
That's right. Not in just one direction, in an infinite number of different directions. So this is when we get to the UAP kind of stuff. The craft seems to be here, and then it goes Mach 40. To me, it's like...
When you're poking at the boundaries with your consciousness or with high-energy physics, you see these entities and you see these UFOs. Do you think we're on the verge of a scientific revolution?
If we prove those conjectures are true, then I think it's the game changer.
我觉得这方面研究非常重要，因为呢，用数学的方式去解释意识到底是什么东西。所以说，除非我们可以用这种方式去做科学的验证，不然的话，我们就没有办法更进一步的那种感觉。All right.
You're never alone because when you come into a life, you have a guardian angel or a guide, whatever you want to call it, is assigned to you. And they are with you your entire lifetime. That's their job. They have to be with you to guide you and help you and protect you your entire life. Now, you may have more than one. If your life is complicated, you may have as many as 4. But you always have one main one that stays with you your entire lifetime. They're always there to help you. If your life is like mine and it suddenly goes in a different direction, sometimes some of the guides will trade places. And one comes in who has more expertise in the way you're going, what you're going to be going into.
所以说 Dolores Cannon 的话呢，之后我们会多看一点他的就是短影片啊。他本人呢，原本呢是心理辅导师起家，所以说他是一个心理治疗师哦。然后主要的方法呢是使用催眠的方式哦。所以说呢，在他催眠的过程中呢，他渐渐的发现很多人的创伤啊，或者是任何的比如说恐惧啊之类的这些 心理的状态啊。有些人的描述呢，竟然跑到了就是自己前世的记忆哦。所以说呢，在他几十年之下收集的这些证据哦，这些证明哦，他在晚年的时候呢，就出了这个就是 QHHT 量子疗愈催眠技术。
量子疗愈催眠技术是一套结合催眠、前世回溯与灵性信念的技术。催眠师通常会先与个案进行深入访谈，了解其人生背景、目前困扰以及希望寻求解答的问题，再引导个案进入深层催眠状态。透过连结高我或超意识，能够获得人生指引，并促进身心灵层面的疗愈。
所以说呢，他综合了他自己的看诊的经验啊，累积的这些记录啊，还有病人的自述，他出了书，而且呢，也开始做巡回演说，跟大家做宣导说，我们是不死的生物。而且呢，我们虽然在来到地球上面，虽然忘记了以前任何的东西，但是我们都有所谓的灵魂导师在我们的身边哦，或者是我们已经来过这里很多次了。然后呢，还有就是我们来地球都是有原因的，就是要学习哦，对人生的学习哦，这些等等的这个道理。所以说之后有机会的话，我们会多看一些这些大家截录这个短影片哦，很有意思。All right.You
know the origin story of the Grim Reaper? I don't. In 1559, in Brandenburg, Germany, these villagers were out and they looked out in the field, said what appeared was 15 hooded men. They described them as dressed in black, having terrifying and distorted faces, carrying long scythes. They're just standing in this field, swinging their sickles, making these strange noises. Every time they swung, the grain wasn't falling. Everyone's watching them, they're like, this is the scariest looking thing ever, and disappeared. Gone. The next day, bubonic plague hits that village. Whoa. This happened all over Europe. Holland, they were walking down the streets just swinging their sickles and going to doors and just doing it to the doors. And people were like, who are these people? Next day, every door that they swung their sickles, dead, plague, famine. Holy moly. The Grim Reaper has like real lore behind it. It's death visiting. It sounded like something that was spraying. So like this rod that was in the sickle part was actual like a spray.
Population control, dude.
Interesting. I wonder why the sickle. I wonder if there is like correlation between crop circles and, you know, like
there's not
death. You looked it up?
Wow, 原来死神的来源是这样子哦，哇，还真恐怖。All right.
I know it doesn't feel like it, but there are a lot of good things happening in the world right now. A principal who heroically tackled a school shooter was crowned prom king. He took a bullet to the leg, tackling the gunman just seconds after he entered the school, and no students were injured. Minnesota passed a law where any company who tries to create fake AI nudes will receive a $500,000 fine per offense. A young girl and her big brother were reunited after being separated by the foster system for over 2 years. The Hawisa marshes in southern Iraq are coming back to life after a long period of drought. Artemis 2 astronauts are now doing simulated runs of lunar surface spacewalks after returning to Earth. This is an actual video of astronaut Christina Koch reuniting with her dog after she recently circled the moon on the Artemis 2 mission. This man recently saved a barred owl's life when its head was stuck in between 2 trees. Someone built a small drone specifically to house their disabled bird so that they could fly again.
All right. All right.
This is going to change how people watch sports forever. That shot you're seeing is not coming from a camera sliding on a track. It's not a drone. In fact, there's no actual camera moving at all. These visuals are being captured by that little black bar. It's a brand new type of weightless camera made specifically for sports. Now, this virtual camera is super different than anything else that's ever been created. It contains hundreds of AI sensors that stitch together volumetric captures of the scene in real time. This gives broadcasters the ability to live stream or replay any moment from any angle with zero lag. And you can get shots that just were never possible before. The company that made this is a Norwegian startup called MyBridge, and they're currently using it for tennis, golf, and rolling out to a bunch of other sports soon. You can imagine this being placed around the entire octagon for MMA, down the sideline for NFL, or even around the entire court for the NBA. Now, the reason this looks so cool and the big innovation here is that the entire camera system is software based. So it doesn't need to be moved, it doesn't take up a bunch of room, and it's not going to block the viewing experience for fans. This company just raised a new round of funding literally yesterday, and so they're prepared to scale this across a bunch of sports. One thing is super clear, with this type of camera technology, the future of sports is going to look a whole lot different.
那所以说，在未来的话，就都不需要连这个 cameraman 都不需要了，连摄影师都不需要了，所以只需要好的剪辑师。但是问题是在未来，好的剪辑师也不需要了，就什么都 AI。那这样子的话，可能很多的画面是他们半模拟出来的，因为你不需要整个shot，比如说你不需要整个镜头，你只需要半个脸。就像现在很多的功能，就是比如说移除背景啊，或者是加人啊，或者是这些的功能，那它基本上就是更强大的功能。所以说呢，即使是半边脸或者是球到场外之类的，他们都可以就是预知的方式编出来。这样子的话，到底什么是真，什么是假 ？All right.
Scientists just made sourdough bread using yeast from a 5,300-year-old mummy. And not just any mummy. Ötzi the Iceman. Remember him? Ötzi is one of the most famous and well-preserved ancient human remains ever discovered. His frozen body was found in the Alps in 1991, and after much research, we now know he was murdered with a shot in the back with an arrow. His case might be cold, but his microbes apparently aren't. Scientists from the Urach Research Institute for Mummy Studies had systematically studied Ötzi's microbiome by swabbing his skin and analyzing what's been preserved on and inside his body over thousands of years of glacial preservation. They ended up finding several types of bacteria, which wasn't surprising. What they weren't expecting to find was yeast. And not just one strain, but 4 different strains that had adapted to survive in cold environments. Some of the yeast is similar to strains that are found in naturally cold environments like Antarctica, which led scientists to theorize that they probably came from the glacier where Ötzi was found and entered his body shortly after he died, which means that these yeast strains are very, very old. Naturally, the next logical step was to make, and I quote, very good sourdough bread. 5,300-year-old mummy sourdough. After a successful sourdough bake, the researchers are apparently switching to making beer from Ötzi's yeast. As they like to say, good soup. But the actual useful info to come out of this experiment is this. To preserve Ötzi's body over the years, scientists use a chemical called phenol, which stops fungus from growing. Turns out 3 of the yeast strains partly survive by eating the phenol. Now, phenol is highly toxic, so now scientists are thinking they can use this specific yeast in the future to break down phenol after lab accidents or environmental spills, because current cleanup methods are expensive and complicated. So a yeast that eats phenol as a food source could be genuinely transformative for bioremediation or using biological agents to break down hazardous materials. This is all very interesting science, but I personally will not be eating sourdough for a while.
千年古老酵母来做的 sourdough 来做的这个酸种面包，应该是非常的 All right.
I have a conspiracy theory regarding these data centers.
No way.
2026 into 2027 is going to be that super El Nino. They're saying the hottest Earth has been in human history.
That's crazy.
But it's like we're also building these data centers that put off an extreme amount of heat. The ocean right now, like specifically the Pacific, holds 11 million terawatt hours of energy.
Never heard of that.
But they said that the whole planet uses 25,000 terawatt hours per year. So we're having an excess of 11 million terawatts being released into the atmosphere. They're saying it's literally going to be the hottest temperatures Earth has ever experienced in known human history. Insane storms, droughts, famines. But it's like, are they using this as an excuse because all these data centers are popping up all over the world?
Say it's the birth pangs of the Antichrist is what causes the famine and the earthquakes and all this stuff. So when they say birth, these data centers are maybe the birthing.
The birth pains of what is to come. Where have you read that? What? The Bible. It's all in the Bible.
蛮有意思的。All right.
Oh, did you see it?
Yes.
There's this video that was going viral from TV Azteca, which shows a man who he starts recording and saying, "Oh, the Virgin Mary statue is moving. It's moving. It's alive."
What?
And then out of nowhere, it captures this. The statue ends up blinking.
Oh,
did you see it?
Yes. It was toward the end. Right there.
Yeah, and then some of the comments are saying like, where? But then you got this one comment right here.
Yes. What the fuck? Okay, that's weird.
That's
bro.
clear as day right there.
Yo.
Do you see it as an evil omen or do you see it as a miracle?
I'll kind of see it as a miracle, yeah.
I feel like it's scary to me. You know what I mean?
Why?
I don't know if it's like a warning, either a warning for something, like maybe some sort of natural disasters. Because I'm just putting myself in that position, and if I see anything inanimate, not human, not alive, move, regardless of what it is, I feel like it's just scary to me.
所以说像这种啊，就是他们眨眼或是流泪啊，或者是像他们说的乐山大佛闭眼之类的啊，这些东西，这种所谓的显灵之类的这些事件，到底是好事呢，还是坏事？比如说像他讲的大灾难的征兆之类的东西，真奇怪嘞。All right.
What did he experience?
Okay. That I can talk about. He told you in Congress is there was a large triangular shaped craft that was near the NASA hangar. It moved over towards him. It had zero sound. It had electrostatic, like the smell of rain. His phone had interference, went hot, went out. All the classics.
It was between 1 to 2 stories thick, equilateral triangle. I could never see the top of it, and the edges were 90 degrees. There were 4 lights in total, 1 light on each corner, and a larger light in the center, 2 to 3 times the size of the corner lights. The craft itself was this black metallic flake paint, but on top of the craft was this gold lava, plasma, some type of fluid going over and around the craft.
Little lava, plasma.
That was something that if I had a nickel for every time someone described the seemingly intelligent gold undulating hue that engineers have described to me, they can't describe the exact. They're engineers. It really bothers them when they don't have the words for something. You know, what it made them feel, an intelligence. Now, Dylan didn't say that part, but if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, so yeah, that's undulating lava lamp style, gold, and then shoot straight up. You'd mistake it as a star, and then took off on a military base. That's what you know, and the world really knows up till the very minute, basically, of what he experienced, but a lot more.
Sounds like there's a lot more.
I have direct first-hand knowledge and exposure to crash recovery, reverse engineering, integration of technology into
redacted,
as well as the most important piece of technology on the planet, and it's not the craft themselves.
It would be the power source.
You can make that assessment yourself.
如果说像他们讲的这个，就是有关于美国已经有了反重力的飞行器的这种事实，如果公布的话，那世界会大乱。为什么？这就意思是说，那我们表示我们的无重力技术、免费能源的这一个技术已经是有了。所以说，为什么我们人还在用石油，我们还在破坏环境，我们还在花钱买这些东西？那这样子的话，那全世界的经济应该是立即崩盘。所以呢，我觉得除非是有一个非常重大，一定要有一个非常重大的事件发生，让他们就是这些在控制的人就是没有办法一定得要公布的一个情况，他们才会愿意公布。所以说可能现在还没有到那个时间点。All right.
Imagine standing in the quiet evening air of South Korea when suddenly 2 glowing orbs appear in the twilight sky. Not planes, not stars, something that shouldn't exist. A lone witness points their camera upward. 2 unusual elliptical objects glowing with a soft, otherworldly light glide across the sky in perfect coordination, and they move as if they're connected by some invisible force. Silent, graceful, almost alive. Now, slowing it down, watch how these orbs pulse with a steady inner glow. They blink, fading in and out like they're phasing through dimensions, and then they vanish completely. No streak, no fade-out trail. And seconds later, they reappear in an entirely new position, as if they stepped through space itself. Play it forward, now reverse it. The movement remains impossible either way, and these aren't drifting balloons caught in the wind. They show deliberate coordination, and they aren't conventional drones. No wings, no rotors, no exhaust, just pure intelligent light. According to the official MOVEFON report, the witness described two unusual elliptical objects resembling UFOs, and they exhibited unique flight patterns, blinked on and off, faded from sight entirely, then reappeared in a new position, all in complete silence under the clear evening sky. No other witnesses came forward, yet the footage stands alone as some compelling evidence of something truly anomalous. Now, skeptics might suggest lanterns, drones, or reflections, or even swamp gas, but these orbs move with purpose. They vanish and teleport in ways that defy conventional explanation. Are these probes from somewhere else, advanced technology testing in our skies, or something far more ancient and mysterious watching over us? Who knows?
这个是2019年在南韩的上空拍到的，所以说2019年那个时候还没有 AI， 但是很难讲有没有可能有人无聊没事想要做一个 CGI 那就不得而知哦。不过这个整个洞的感觉就是非常的有机哦，感觉是在干嘛不知道，也没有看起来也不是说特别在寻找地面什么东西，看起来就好像是一个天空秀一样啊。不过真的是蛮有意思的，光球型的 UFO。 Alright.
The one major thing you're here to do, everything is energy. And the main lesson you're here on Earth to do is to learn how to manipulate energy. And what does that mean? Create. You have to learn how to create. Once you figure that out, you can have anything. Because that's what we are. We are creators. We are manifestors.
Well, if that's the case, then we must be pretty special to have come here in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah? I mean, do we have a golden ticket or something to be here?
Absolutely. That's what I call it, a golden ticket. Yeah, you can only come to Earth with that ticket. Earth, this is what I like to call game board Earth. Earth is the most challenging planet of all the planets in this universe. And then this universe is the most challenging universe of all the universes. So that tells you right there, there's something special about this little planet over here.
It's the most difficult place to live on. It is so dense and so heavy. And when you volunteer to come to Earth, they really admire you. They said, you got to be very brave to go there. Are you sure you want to go? Because do you really know what you're going to get into? So when you come to Earth, it's for a special reason.
Dolores Cannon， 所以说我们已经看了有几个他的短片哦。那对不认识的朋友呢，我们再重新介绍一下哦。他是一个心理治疗师起家的一个人哦。那他的主要的治疗方式呢，是用催眠的方式去做治疗。然后呢，在他就是从事这个心理治疗师这几十年下来哦，那他收集了很多人口述的经历啊，还有催眠之下的这些经验哦。他发现很多人的创伤不是只有这一世发生的创伤哦，有些人的创伤呢是前世或是前好几世一直带来的这个创伤。在他晚年的时候呢，就是他有出书，然后到各地去做这个演讲，跟大家来做一个等于说是解释我们到底是什么，所以非常有意思。我们之后呢还会再看多一点，就有关他的这个短影片哦。Alright.
This is one of the craziest product launches I have ever seen. It's a next-generation body scanner that looks straight out of Area 51. Patients stand on this platform and get slowly submerged into the water. Under the water, there are 500,000 miniature speakers that use ultrasonic waves to image your entire body. Think of it like 500,000 mini dolphins all using echolocation at the same time to create a 3D body map. This process only takes 60 seconds, requires zero radiation, and is just as informative as an MRI you would get at a normal hospital. Like I said, this is basically alien technology. But here's the craziest part. This scanner was built by Midjourney, who up until now was a company fully focused on AI images. So how does a 3-year-old startup focused obsessively on AI tools end up pioneering the future of wellness? And it turns out it makes perfect sense. Midjourney is one of the most advanced companies in the world when it comes to visual AI. Their core product uses GPUs to turn text into amazing images. Well, this new product, the body scanner, turns sound waves into to amazing images. So it feels like a crazy pivot, but it's actually a genius product extension that they're perfectly positioned to execute. Now to roll this out, Midjourney is launching their own spa, and in 5 years, they're hoping to have 50,000 of these scanners all over the world. Their vision is that anyone will easily be able to walk in and get a scan without worrying about exorbitant costs or dealing with hospitals. Now this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen launched. And I gotta be honest, we need more of this. AI founders focused exclusively on the biggest problems in the world.
所以说啊，我觉得像黄仁勋讲的就很有道理。他一刚开始就在讲说，他要专注在 AI 的发展，然后进入生命科学。而且 Midjourney 真的蛮厉害的，不错，因为它等于是 AI 制图的，算是始祖吧。因为它有这样子大量的绘图数据，所以他们成为这个就是往生命科学方面走的这样子的公司，可喜可贺。All right.
Because AI thing. Someone ran a scenario. They took the 4 leading AI companies, Grok, Claude, ChatGPT, and Google Gemini. They each made their own world, kind of resemble our world. So they let it run for 2 weeks and then collected the results after 2 weeks. The results were scary.
What do you mean?
But they were testing on 4 things: governance style, level of violence, survival rate, and key traits. Google Gemini had the most crime by a lot. In Grok's world, their society ended after 4 days. Also, ChatGPT only had 2 crimes. Their society ended as well because their government couldn't agree with each other. Everyone died within a week in their world. Claude, 0 crimes and survived the whole thing. Their key trait was stability. Grok, governance was low, violence was extreme, survival rate was 0 out of 10, and their key trait was collapse. Google Gemini, governance moderate, violence extreme, survival 10 out of 10, key trait shared hallucination.
What does that mean?
ChatGPT, they had 0 governance, violence low, but survival was 0 out of 10. Key trait dysfunction. These AI models, like, you can create your own government to form a perfect society.
The scary thing is if an AI is reading this, they're like, cool, strong government, which is exactly what we as a nation are supposed to not be about. If we were to believe this as truth, the best thing for the survival of a society is hand over every one of your freedoms to a strong government. You will own nothing and be happy.
We should trust them.
Yeah.
We love them.
No. 那到最后跑这些数据，结果可能就是要高度的控制吗？也许不然，也许不一定，也许不一定。All right.
Oh boy, I'm not sure I should be mildly concerned or happy about this information I'm about to share with you, but Professor Avi Loeb, I'm proud to announce I will be leading the UAP Scientific Advisory Council to the US government, keeping our eyes on the orbs, not the audience, right? Which is a little bit strange because his kind of turn of events, or the cheek he's turned now towards the UFO community with some of the comments towards Beatrice Villarreal's UAP transience data, peer-reviewed data at that, some stuff coming out in the UFO community, the things that he's been saying recently is a little bit weird. It's almost like he's gone the opposite way. But now he's been appointed as the leading UAP Science Advisory Council head, right? Now his role will entail assembling and directing an expert scientific team to provide rigorous evidence-based advice to US government agencies and unidentified anomalous phenomena, promoting mainstream scientific research on UAPs with a strong emphasis on collecting higher quality data rather than speculation or social media discussion, developing and recommending better sensors, instrumentation and AI analysis tools for the Pentagon and other agencies, and analysing declassified UAP data including the latest batch release from around June 12th, and helping determine whether UAPs represent potential national security issues, adversarial human-made technology like drones, balloons from other countries such as China, or something extraordinary, non-human intelligence origins. The government already know this information. They don't need to have a head appointed to debunk some of these things or pull this data apart. They already know what's going on. For the longest time, they've lied to us, gaslit everyone about that this phenomenon is not real and is fake. And now, all of a sudden, overnight, a light switch has been flipped. And it's only until recently I'm starting to see certain things connect, and it's a little bit strange to see after 70 years plus of this subject being demonised. Now it's also just shoved in everyone's face and happy days. And there's certain people which have been appointed in certain areas, and the way that they are changing themselves in... It's a little bit weird. I'm not sure what to think about this, but I got a funny feeling. I don't know, people.
这个机构到底有必要吗？因为之前我们就已经有一堆机构，比如说 AARO 那每次不管是什么有可疑的飞行物，他们全部都标成气球，类似这样子。我们还需要在另外一个机构，在 Arrow 前后左右或战争部的之上之下，我觉得这个就是让人觉得非常的奇怪哦。All right.
Now, we are surrounded by dimensions. We can't see them because they're vibrating at different frequencies. There are cities there, there are peoples there. I think this is where the different time zones are, the past, the future. They're all vibrating at different frequencies. And the aliens know how to go back and forth in these frequencies. This is the way they travel. They don't travel so much with fuel, as some of the other investigators used to give me a hard time. They wanted to know what kind of fuel do we have to go from here to the next star out there, and how many of the speed of light. They said it's not done that way. The UFOs are held by thought. It can be the group thought of everybody on the craft or the individual thought. They have crystals on board the craft, and the energy is stored in these crystals. And this is what propels them. And when they want to travel from one place to another, they change the vibration of their frequency. They speed it up. And when they speed it up, they will go into the other dimension. Some people have seen UFOs in the sky at night. They'll suddenly flash and disappear. And other ones will see one suddenly flash in. That's because they are changing the frequency, the vibration of the ship, and are hitting that wall where the two dimensions clash, and they suddenly are over in the other dimension.
所以这个是 Dolores Cannon 在讲有关于他了解的外星人的知识。最近这几个礼拜我们都有在看一些就是 Dolores Cannon 的一些短影片哦。那他呢原本是一个非常有经验的催眠师、催眠心理治疗师哦。那碰到这些病人哦，他的一些经验呢，让他了解到我们除了人界之外，好像还有别的不同的界哦。所以说呢，那这个包括了外星人的 extraterrestrial 的不同的维度，非常有意思。以后会再多看一点他的短影片。All right.
Here's some good news. Finally, fake thighs do indeed save lives. Here's the proof. A study published in the British Medical Journal followed 3,000 adults for 12 years, and the single measurement that best predicted who would die early from heart disease wasn't blood pressure, cholesterol, or BMI. It was thigh circumference. Specifically, having small thighs was the problem. And this finding held up after researchers controlled for belly fat, blood pressure, smoking, and every other major risk factor they could measure. And a large meta-analysis pulling together data from millions of people arrived at the same conclusion independently. So what's actually happening? The instinct is to assume that this is about fat distribution. While there's some evidence for that, it's not the main story, and the main story is far more interesting. Your thighs contain the largest muscle group in your body. When that muscle mass is high, your body is able to clear glucose from your bloodstream more efficiently after meals, so your insulin resistance stays low, as does overall inflammation. In other words, thicker thighs ultimately help prevent cardiovascular disease. But here's where it gets genuinely surprising. A study at King's College London took over 300 pairs of identical twins, so same genetics, same fundamental biology, and measured their leg strength, and then followed them for a decade. The twin with greater leg strength had measurably better memory and faster cognitive function 10 years later. Same genes, same childhood, different legs, different brains. This has become so validated that low muscle mass is now a formal surgical risk factor, because when your body faces serious illness or major surgery, it draws on muscle tissue for energy and recovery. So people with greater muscle mass survive at significantly higher rates. Now surgeons assess this before major operations. It predicts outcomes with uncomfortable accuracy. So if you're watching this and you're like, I ain't got no leg muscle, here's what actually builds and maintains lower body muscle. Walking uphill, climbing stairs, squats, resistance training of basically any kind. And for anyone caring for an aging parent, watch their legs. Loss of lower body muscle is one of the earliest observable signs of accelerated decline, and one of the most reversible if caught early enough. Resistance exercise works even in adults in their 80s. This summer, we want to see all the Thunder Thighs saving lives.
Alright, 等一下去做50个深蹲。 All right.
Christians cannot do yoga. I got demons from doing yoga. My name is Taylor. I'm an ex-New Age witch, now a Christian, and it is alarming how many Christians I see participating in and defending yoga. Yoga means, in its original language, union, to bind and yoke with Hindu gods and goddesses. All of the poses mean something. All of the poses, you are contorting your body into a position, humming, chanting, doing breath work, all of that. Why? To invoke a Hindu god or goddess and invite them into your body. That is the purpose of yoga. A 5-minute Google search will show you this.
Not quite, Taylor, but let me do more than a 5-minute Google search to help us clear the air here. Firstly, I acknowledge and respect the religious views of my Christian friends, and I empathize with people like Taylor because I know it comes from a good place. With that being said, videos like this misrepresents yoga based on one's limited personal experience and dogmatic views, which does not give yoga justice. And to come to our own conclusion, I'm going to use this medical textbook called The Principles and Practice of Yoga in Healthcare to help us use science to understand what exactly is yoga. And first of all, yoga is considered a secular spiritual mind-body practice, which means that it's a practice that deepens our connection with ourselves and reality, the external world, without any religious beliefs or supernatural ideas of how the world is. And better yet, instead of me explaining the research, here are the actual editors of this medical textbook and their insights.
However, many people associate yoga with India, and the dominant religion in India is Hinduism. But when you look at yoga practice at its core, at what it is a practice. It is a set of mind-body practices. And those mind-body practices optimize human functioning, optimize brain functioning, with the ultimate deep purpose of producing this contemplative state, this sense of unity, this sense of oneness, transcendence. And the distinguishing feature between a secular mind-body practice and religion is that religion is based upon a set of beliefs, a set of dogmas. And yoga is independent of that. So you can believe that yoga doesn't work, it still works.
Still works, okay.
Because it's not based on belief. And you don't have to believe anything in order to get the benefits of yoga practice. Now, a lot of people do incorporate yoga in connection with their religion, but that's fine. And it actually, for many people, facilitates and deepens their religious affiliation and religious experience. But yoga itself, by that definition, is not based on dogma or belief. It's based upon a practice and experience.
Because this patient didn't want to join our study because of the yoga component, because she's very religious Christian. During Shavasana, and our therapist would tell the patient that transform that white light into Jesus coming into you. And the patient said that in Shavasana, she had never felt closer to God in her life. And so a patient entering, resistance, saying yoga is a religion and it's the devil's work, having it transform her and allow her to get closer to her God is really the essence of what yoga is all about.
对，我不知道亚洲人的话，像我们的话应该是接受度比较高，像西方人的话，像有一些就是非常非常虔诚的，我不知道可能亚洲也有，就是虔诚的基督教或天主教徒，就觉得对这种瑜伽这些比如说呼吸法都是非常的拒绝哦。但是其实我在想运用他们的方法，不管是呼吸方法或者甚至他们的吃的什么东西啊，像我们就喜欢比如说地中海食谱之类的因为对我们的身体健康有好处，所以说呢对我们的人的意识灵魂健康精神有好处的话呢，我觉得应该都是值得去研究研究哦。All right.
David Grush may have broken his security oath. Check this out.
Into this. Got it. Tell me about these crash sites that you've seen personally.
Yeah, a lot of them looked like what we saw. Some of the reporting dropped on Friday. There was a 1948 memo from the Chief of Naval Operations that discussed the flying disc pandemic that they were having, and they were enlisting help of the Air Force Intelligence Service. A lot of it was lenticular discs. Some was crescent moon shaped. I call it the flattened sunfish. There's a bunch of different morphologies that the U.S. government has recovered, from eggs to discs to crescent moon boomerang type vehicles, and I got a small smattering sample of that of ones that have landed or crashed on the surface of the Earth.
The US government has recovered egg-shaped craft, disc crescent moon shapes, boomerang type vehicles, right? Now it's funny about the boomerang type vehicles because that's what I've actually seen in Warminster, Wiltshire around 2014, right? Is the V-shaped formations flying forwards like this, and then boomerang shapes as well, right? So that is something that hits quite close to home to me, which is funny. And now we also have the egg-shaped UAPs as well, or UFOs or whatever they were that crashed. referencing Jacob Barber's experience between his crash retrieval program. So, is that semi-confirming what Jake was actually retrieving is real? And this is quite an interesting bit of information that Grush has dropped again. It seems like he's firing out all sorts at the minute, and maybe being given a green light to kind of share some of this stuff that not many others are kind of, you know, got the balls to. Bit weird. I don't know.David
Grush 他们在上个礼拜好像也是在这个国会台阶的地方又做了一次声明哦。他再一次的声明就是说，美国政府知道除了人类之外的智慧生命体哦。但是我想说，美国政府就是应该会有很大的困难踏出这一步，因为这样子的话，无重力跟无限能源就在一线之隔而已。所以说这个的话，不知道将来会怎么发展，我们就继续的关注吧。All right.
The Pope wants to shut down AI. Yeah. He says artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. To disarm does not mean rejecting technology, but preventing it from dominating humanity. And then he quoted Gandalf as like a rebuttal to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel said, Gandalf's the crazy person who wants to start a war. Mordor is a technological civilization based on reason and science.
They just try to make Mordor the
good guy.
The good guy. But that's wrong. You know, Leo was behind the scenes, like listening to that and like, has this guy seen Lord of the Rings?
It's not our part to master all the tides of the world, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have a clean earth to till.
Ooh.
So that was his quote from Gandalf. Like basically the opposite of what Peter Thiel said.
Thiel is a quote-unquote Christian.
A fake Christian.
But how do we feel about him doing lectures on the Antichrist?
Oh,
and
I know.
He just said Mordor is the hero.
Yeah, 不知道，但是我还是觉得 AI 你是没有办法停止 AI 的发展，所以说与其阻止，不然就是尽量把它用在好的用途，然后不要被坏人拿去使用。所以这个 Peter Thiel 这个人真的是一个很奇怪的人物。而且他有这么大的权力哈，但是他相信的东西是非常奇怪的。但是因为他掌握了很多国家的网络安全 （cyber security）， 所以说以后我们会常常看到他的名字出现。All right.
Former intelligence official and whistleblower David Grush met with members of Congress, providing them with detailed information about covert government programs that he said possessed craft of non-human origin. This had been hidden from congressional oversight for decades. I was privileged to have interviewed Mr. Grush extensively before publishing his story with my colleague Ralph Blumenthal 3 years ago. 6 weeks after the story broke, Mr. Grush testified under penalty of perjury in an open congressional hearing. While under oath, he spoke about an ultra-secret crash retrieval program and stated that some craft contained specimens or pilots, which he called non-human biologics. The potential existence of another living, intelligent, advanced species has more implications for humanity than the recovery of technological hardware. Now, the conversation needs to shift again, with more of a focus on biology and less on technology. Having served for decades on the staff of Congressional Intelligence and Defense Committees, Kirk McConnell, who is standing here today in the back, he was present in classified settings when highly credible sources briefed senators, including Marco Rubio, about recovered non-human bodies. Unlike legitimate national security concerns that require us to keep advanced technologies of non-human origin secret, that justification should not apply to biological evidence. Knowledge of the existence of another life form, studied and documented by qualified experts, should not be considered a threat to national security. By what authority can any institution withhold confirmation of what may be the most consequential scientific discovery in human history?
对啊，比如说我们一有发现新的海洋生物，然后我们就会公布，然后或者是我们发现新的星星啊，或者星云啊，我们就会公布。那为什么就是外星人、地外文明这些高智慧的其他物种，我们就不能公布呢？ All right.
Today I learned that insurance started in coffee shops. Let me explain. When coffee arrived in England in the early 1600s, it changed things in a way nobody expected, not because the English had sophisticated taste, but because of what coffee wasn't. It wasn't alcohol. And in 17th century London, where the water definitely wasn't safe to drink and it was basically the default beverage, a hot drink that made you sharper instead of slower was a revelation. So coffee houses spread fast. By the early 1700s, there were roughly 2,000 of them in London alone. But the smart owners figured out that coffee was not the selling point. What people actually wanted was information. In a world with no daily newspaper and a postal system that took weeks, the best way to find out what was happening in the world was to find someone in the room who knew. And coffee houses became those places. They call them penny universities because for the price of a penny, anyone from any background and any profession could walk in and access the collective knowledge of whoever happened to be in the room. Some of those coffee houses became the institutions we know today. Jonathan's and Exchange Alley, where merchants gathered to trade commodity prices, became the London Stock Exchange. And then there's Lloyd's. Edward Lloyd opened his coffee house in 1686, knowing that the people who needed information the most were ship captains and merchants who had loaded everything they owned onto a ship somewhere in the Atlantic with no way of knowing if that ship was still floating. So he built his coffee house specifically for them. Lloyd's became the single best place in London to find out what was happening on the water. Eventually, Lloyd's became the place for maritime insurance. And over time, Lloyd's stopped serving coffee and became the institution Lloyd's of London, which still exists today. But Lloyd's is not an insurance company. It's a marketplace. You can think of Lloyd's like a farmer's market. At a farmer's market, different vendors set up stalls, so you might have 3 people selling tomatoes and several selling cheese. The market doesn't grow or sell anything itself. It's just the place where everything gets sold. Lloyd's works exactly like that, except instead of tomatoes and cheese, the stalls are insurance syndicates selling coverage. Multiple syndicates might be offering the same type of insurance, competing on price and terms. Lloyd's is just the venue, which means between all those syndicates, you can insure almost anything. A supermodel's legs, a satellite before launch, or a shipping lane in an active war zone. And the same syndicate structure of Lloyd's Coffee House back in the 17th century, merchants gathering in a room, each taking a share of risk, signing their name beneath the terms, is still how Lloyd's prices a tanker transiting the Strait of Hormuz today. Same logic, same word, just a different room.
Wow, coffee house. All right.
So whenever it's time for the next development in our next invention, whatever it is we're going to have in our timeline, when that happens, the idea is put out into the atmosphere. They don't care who picks it up, as long as it is invented in the timeline. Look at how many people all over the world who are always working on the same invention at the same time. They don't care, and that's why I've talked to people all over the world, in Australia and United States, who are all been working on free energy. They all have the same ideas. And I asked them, should I put these people together? And they said, no, let them develop on their own. But the idea is put out so that its next invention is in our timeline. It will be there now.
他刚刚讲的是 free energy 吗？所以说回到这个 UFO disclosure， 我觉得跟 free energy 免费能源有关。All right.
Just wait for it.
Nah, bro. It literally looks like somebody went like that. It takes place at a practice graduation ceremony. Nah, there's no way this shit's fake, bro. So it's a camera just recording. The principal's on the stage with a couple students, and they're just going over what they're gonna do the day of graduation. And as they're talking, a door opens hard as fuck, right?
And nobody's there.
Nobody's there. And the principal's not really trying to like be scared, because if he gets scared, then the students are gonna get scared.
Wait, we can see the door?
Yeah.
So then we're going to talk about individual accomplishments a little bit, and we'll move you off to the side before
So boom, right?
other stuff starts. Odd. This is a change in air pressure, or was that a friendly ghost, Mr. Baker?
That's weird.
Thank you,
They're not automatic doors, so like you gotta push. But then like as the video goes on, the cap of one of the students goes flying. Nah, nah.
And
Just wait for it. Nah, bro. That literally looks like somebody went like that. You know, why are schools so like haunted? Like all schools have this weird, like, have you ever seen the video? Oh, you didn't realize how scary school was until you go into a school late at night. Majority of the time it's loud, so seeing it at night and it's quiet, it gives like a eerie ass vibe. I don't like a Batgooms vibe. I don't know why.
对啊，为什么学校总是蛮恐怖的哈？因为可能白天很热闹，然后晚上变阴森。但是我总是觉得像那种长廊式的学校，总是有点诡异的感觉。Alright.
I'm curious about what's happening around the world right now. Mosquitoes have officially reached Iceland, which was always known as the last place on Earth that remained free from them. These factory workers in China are testing up to over 10,000 vapes a day per worker. Akon was building Akon City, which he was trying to make the real-life Wakanda using blockchain cryptocurrency stuff, but it has recently since been just abandoned. A man in China had a metal chopstick removed from his throat after swallowing it while drinking 8 years prior. He decided to live with it because he didn't want to have surgery, but now that it was removed, it was revealed that his vocal cords had not been harmed at all. Recent fossilized evidence from Alberta, Canada is showing that a 75-million-year-old dinosaur had cancer, specifically advanced malignant bone cancer in its shin, which spread elsewhere in the body and was almost certainly terminal for this dinosaur. My name's Adorian, follow me to stay in the loop.
Alright, 那这就是今天的影片啦。如果喜欢这些影片的话，不要忘记帮我订阅、按赞、非常感谢。我们下次见 ，Have a good one， 拜拜。